SmartB Sports Update Podcast is brought to you by Optimum CBD. For all your rest and recovery needs, CBD products are your best bet. Go to OptimumCBD.store to order now. Free delivery on all orders over $99. You must be over 18 to order. I use Optimum CBD products personally for my rest and recovery. I train 6 days a week in Jiu-Jitsu, as you've probably heard on the SmartB Sports Update Podcast. I teach, I train, I compete. And without Optimum CBD products, I wouldn't be able to do it. Optimum CBD for all your rest and recovery needs.
How you going, man?
Hey, John. The big blockbuster on tonight, eh? We can't talk a whole lot about the Panthers and the Storm. The usual rule applies. We're recording on Thursday afternoon. And the podcast, I'm guessing, won't go up till Friday. Yeah. So by the time you're watching, you will know the result in that game, but as we're sitting here, we don't know the result of that game.
Why is that the blockbuster?
Well, yeah, I mean, the Panthers have come from the clouds to find themselves in the top four. Quite extraordinary, given that they were last after 12 rounds. If you can believe some sort of turnaround, that you could be last after 12 rounds, and yet after 23 rounds, you're in the top four. Yeah, that is some sort of turnaround.
It's not an individualised thing, right? It's like the whole team has come good all of a sudden. And
yeah, that's right. And I would say it's a real warning sign for the other clubs. Now, the bookies seem to think that this is now a race in four. You look at the odds. I'm allowed to talk about the odds, aren't I? Yeah. You look at the odds and it's basically a 4-horse race and they're not giving anyone else a chance. So the bookies certainly think that the winner is going to come from the top four. Raiders, Storm, Bulldogs, Panthers is the top four.
What I can tell you is it's still possible for the West Tigers to make the 8.
It's still possible for the Dragons to make the 8.
Yeah, not really, but I mean it's the same pathway actually. They need basically everyone above them to lose, and they need to win every game. I think it's everyone for the Tigers and the Dragons. It's everyone from 5th to whoever's above them to lose every game for the rest of the season, and then they need to win every game. And that doesn't even matter on points differential. I was playing with the ladder predictor the other day. So that $501 for the Dragons and Tigers to make to win the premiership, that looks like a juicy bet, right?
Yeah,
if you're an idiot.
Big time. There's actually an article on the Fox Sports website that has the probability of all the teams making the top 8. Maybe I should dig it up and we can have a bit of a laugh.
Let's face it, the West Tigers are 0, the Dragons are 0.
Oh, they're not actually 0, but I will. They're close to it, but there is still some sort of chance.
The Dolphins hold the key to a lot of teams. Like if the Dolphins continue their losing. Then they hold the key to a lot of teams possibly making the 8.
Yeah, so the Dragons are still a chance of making the top 8. Their percentage chance of making the top 8 is 0.7%.
So what is the Dumb and Dumber line? So you're saying I still have a chance?
The West Tigers are a 0.3% chance of making the top 8. But the Cowboys are no chance. So Dragons and Tigers could still make it. The Cowboys can't. So there you go.
But they do require every team above them to lose, and then they get to win. Speaking of the Dragons, they announced this week, as usual, the Dragons have announced in the middle of a season at a weird time that they've re-signed their coach for another 3 years. Was it 3 years? 2 years?
2 more years.
2 years.
He was under contract till the end of 2026, and they've extended him to the end of 2028.
So he'll be there for another 3 years guaranteed or paid out to leave. So that means he's there for as long as Kyle Flanagan.
Yeah. Yeah, look, I know they've won their last 2 games against the Raiders and the Sharks, but the reality is they've been below par this season. They won't make the 8, so as much as I was joking about the 0.7% chance before,
excuse me,
it may as well be 0%.
You can't say they won't because they're still 0.7%. Yeah, no.
So, they're not going to make the 8. So when it's all said and done at the end of the year, these wins won't mean anything because they haven't finished in the top 8.
They have...
what's the goal of every team at the start of the season? It's to win a premiership. And then when you realise only a handful of teams can win a premiership, well, what's the goal for everyone else? The goal's to make the top 8.
Yeah.
And then they're not going to make the top 8. So... yeah, it's a failed season. As I said, when it's all said and done, these 2 wins won't mean anything. And again, they finished 11th under Shane Flanagan last year. It was his first season. They're 11th again this season, not going to make the 8. I would not have given him that contract extension. I would have waited to see how he goes at the start of next season. I wouldn't have given him this 2-year extension.
Well, yeah, there's 4 more games to go, including this weekend. I'm going to sneeze.
Yes.
If they win a couple more, they're still going to finish around that 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th position.
Yeah.
Like that's like the 8 is the whole entire ladder is pretty much set now. Like we're talking, Dragons and West Tigers can make the 8 from their current 22 points as long as everyone above them loses and they win every single match and stuff like that. But it's pretty set. It's the 8th place is going to be Roosters or Dolphins, and then the makeup of you'd have to say 4 to 8 is still in some contention.
Let me know if you want to know their percentage chance. I've got it in front of me.
It's like the Roosters and the Dolphins. What's the Roosters?
Yeah, so the Roosters, their percentage chance of making the 8, 66%.
Yeah. And the Dolphins?
Dolphins, according to this article, 66.2%.
Yeah, because they're sitting around exactly the same. Dolphins are currently 8th, Roosters are 9th, and the Seagulls don't have the same amount of points as them. Seagulls sitting on 24 points. And you can't see them really coming good and doing a push to that given how they're currently playing, right? Whereas the Dolphins and Roosters can pretty much play a little bit better than the Eagles, and one of them will be 8. And then so 4 to 7, because you'd have to say the top 3 are going to be Raiders, Storm and Bulldogs. They're so far ahead of the rest of the pack that they're going to be the top 3.
Yeah, you'd have to think we can lock that in now. The Bulldogs have got that 5-point lead over the Panthers in 4th spot. I think a lot would have to go wrong for those. I mean, the order within the top 3 could change, but they're going to be the top 3 now.
Yeah, and then 4 to 7, I could comfortably say will be Panthers, Warriors, Broncos, and Sharks. How they end up can be, depending on things going. Like Warriors could come good and get their 4th spot back, and so on and so forth. Broncos are in a lot of misery at the moment, which we'll talk to later. And then 8th is either the Dolphin and the Roosters. So Dragons, the Dragons and the Tigers may end up in that 10th position, 10th, 11th position. As you said, the Dragons already finished 11th last year, so there's been no improvement. Tigers, that's where everyone wanted them to finish this year if they actually do end up finishing. So as much criticism as everyone's had for the Tigers, including us all year, if they do end up finishing in that 10th, 11th type position, that's where everyone expected them to finish. They didn't do it in the best possible way, but they've obviously had all their issues all year with Lachlan Galvin and...
Yeah, well, that was the main issue, wasn't it?
So, re-signing Shane Flanagan now when you're in a position... That's like I said, open this thing with... That's how the Dragons seem to do so many occasions over their last 3 or 4 coaches. Just at a weird time, they announced signing news for their coach. And you just go, all right, well...
Yeah, because you got to look at the big picture with these things. You can't just get carried away with 2 wins that are meaningless. They needed to win when they were still alive, when they still had something to play for. They lost too many games there in the middle of the season.
It was like 6 or 7 in a row, yeah.
They've beaten the Raiders and the Sharks, but in the scheme of things, it's not going to mean anything. And I keep coming back to it, but you have to say that he left Jonah Glover and Lachlan Ilias in New South Wales Cup for too long. They've got the Dragons to second spot on the New South Wales Cup ladder, those two. Now, why has he left them there too long? Obviously, because his son's the halfback, and he's kept picking his son at halfback because he's his son. No other reason. And now, of course, they've won a couple of games, so of course he's going to say, "Oh yeah, Kyle's going well," and he'll justify it, and he'll latch onto these 2 wins. But again, you have to look at the big picture. These 2 wins are not going to mean anything at the end of the season when it's all said and done.
Their next 3 games are like now quite easy games. So Warriors, who are on a massive slide, Rabbitohs, who are woeful, and the Sea Eagles, who are on a massive slide, and they'll finish up with the Panthers. So it's entirely possible they win all 3 of those games as well. And then that's going to be this justification for sticking with Kyle Flanagan and re-signing Shane Flanagan and so on and so forth and blah, 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 blah. But in reality, you go back and they lost like 6 in a row. They also lost like in devastating fashion to some teams they should have beat. You know, they lost close games. They got smashed all through the year. They've just been inconsistent. And now there's the rumours they're going to throw big money at, now that they've signed Shane Flanagan and they've locked in their coach long term, they're going to throw big money at Tino, who's on like a 55-year contract. But apparently he's got to get out for the end of 2026, so he's allowed to talk to people at the end of 2025. And so Dragons are one of the up to offer him $1.3 million a year. Dogs are apparently chasing him too, by the way. But the Bears are going to offer him 1.5.
Yeah, right. Well, that's the thing. He needs a big fish on the recruitment front, Flanagan, that's for sure. And if you look at some of the players he's recruited, Valentine Holmes, Damien Cook, Clint Gutherson, now on the surface you might go, oh, well, there's 3 handy signings, but what you got to keep in mind is these players were unwanted by their existing clubs.
Because they're all 100 years old.
This is the thing, in the peak of their career, gun signings, but they're not at the peak of their career. Again, they were unwanted by their clubs, so the question really is, does Shane Flanagan have the ability to land that big fish on the recruitment front? And again, I keep coming back to, bless you, I keep coming back to the issue of him picking his son Kyle Flanagan at halfback. The problem with Kyle Flanagan being at halfback, it isn't just a problem for... Bless you again. It isn't just a problem for right now. It's a problem in terms of, while Kyle Flanagan's the halfback, he's not going to be chasing other halfbacks. And that's who they need to chase. If they're going after Tino, well, that's wonderful, but they really should be chasing a new halfback. And he won't chase a new halfback because his son's the halfback.
I also heard they're trying to re-sign Josh Kerr. He went somewhere, right? He was there, and then he went somewhere.
He's at the Dolphins.
Yeah, they're trying to get him back now.
Yeah.
They already let him go, and now they're trying to get him back. There's a lot of teams in the competition whose recruitment just is puzzling to everybody. Souths, the Roosters, and now the Dragons as well.
Yeah, I mean, Josh Kerr, of course, he had that situation where he was a part of Queensland's extended squad, and then he bagged the ref in front of TV cameras the next morning after the game, and then he copped it from the NRL.
Yeah.
But yeah, does he? They're going after Tino. They're not addressing the real issue.
No,
because
they got Atkinson coming next year, and then the CEO saying Kyle Flanagan won't be the halfback next year. He'll be moved back to that 14 spot that he's supposed to be.
So we'll believe that when we see it.
They've hired Daniel Anderson as the recruitment manager who'll be taking over all recruitment decisions away from Shane Flanagan. Doesn't matter who he recruits. I mean, if he recruited Cooper Cronk out of retirement, that doesn't necessarily mean that Shane Flanagan's going to pick Cooper Cronk in front of Kyle Flanagan, week to week. So, It's always been with Shane Flanagan. They really need to back him in, give him the time. It did take him a while to build up the Sharks, but this trepidation over him will never go away as long as Kyle Flanagan is being picked at 7 over obviously better choices.
Yeah, that's right. It's nepotism in the extreme. He picked Kyle above Ilias and Glover for no other reason than that he's his son. That's the reality here. And if we look at if we just look at that from Shane Flanagan, that return 11th last year and 11th this year, not going to make the finals this year. That's a really disappointing 2 seasons back. I think they would have been hoping for a lot more than that from him. Again, the general rule is, there are some exceptions, but the general rule is if you miss the 2 years in a row as a coach, you're gone. And he's lucky, not only is he lucky that he's going to survive, but he's extremely lucky to have signed a contract extension. You have to really ask yourself, what justification do they have for giving him this 2-year contract extension?
Well, they got Daniel Anderson there as recruitment manager now, so that was the same as when... Who was the coach before him? Anthony Griffin. The coach before him was Mary McGregor, right?
Yeah, I'd need to look that up.
They justified the extension for Mary McGregor when they signed him weirdly in the middle of the season because... they didn't justify it, but the belief was it's because Shane Flanagan was there as a coaching something or other, not an assistant, but some other job. And so it was it's all right, they've signed Marion McGregor because even if he continues to go badly, they'll pay him out and get Shane Flanagan to come in and cover him anyway. I don't know if Daniel Anderson's interested in getting back into coaching, but that's the kind of feeling it has. They've suddenly signed Daniel Anderson as a recruitment manager, and then they've re-signed Shane Flanagan for some stability and to sign players so the recruitment manager can go out and sign those players. But either way, if Shane Flanagan doesn't work out next year, they can cut him loose and just bring Daniel Anderson in to replace him mid-contract anyway.
Yeah, so not including interim coaches, it was Griffin before Flanagan.
Yeah.
And Paul McGregor before Griffin.
Steve Price was the same.
Price before McGregor.
But they had... I think it was actually Mary McGregor there when Steve Price was there. So even if they had an issue, they were always planning on bringing Mary McGregor in. And that just seems to be the Dragons' way. We'll re-sign the coach, we'll extend him, because it's okay if we have the continued issue. We'll just pay him out and get rid of him. And we've got that guy that we've employed for something else that can just slot in. If Daniel Anderson's doing all the recruitment and getting all the players over the line, on board, and Shane Flanagan isn't, they're really coming on board because of Daniel Anderson. So if they end up having to sack Shane Flanagan, it's all right. Daniel Anderson's there.
Yeah, there's nothing on the horizon that would suggest that things are going to improve greatly next season for the Dragons.
If Big Tino signs.
Yeah. Well, if they get, that's an if. If they get Tino,
that's for 2027 as well. That's not for next year. That's for 2027.
Yeah, so he needs something sooner than that.
Yeah, they need to do. They've got just Atkinson next year, right?
Have to look that up. NRL player transfers for 2026. Atkinson's the only one I'm aware of at the moment, but let's have a look at their gains and losses.
I know they did sign Josh Kerr as well.
Oh, so they got Josh Kerr back.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so Josh Kerr and Daniel Atkinson are the only 2 signings. Of course, Jonah Glover, he's had a gutful. He's had enough. He's going to the Rabbitohs. He's leaving. Can't blame him. I would have done the same thing. If the coach just keeps picking his son ahead of you, well, what choice do you have? Yeah. You'd be mad not to leave. So good on him.
So you'd have to think that it's going to be...
if Lachlan Ilias should do the same thing.
Well, you'd have to think if the CEO is saying, yeah, sure, we all believe that Kyle Flanagan's going to be the 14, then next year it's going to be Ilias and Atkinson for the halves.
Yeah, no, it's fine. That's fine. And they'll put Kyle Flanagan on the bench.
Yeah, that's what he reckons. That's what the CEO reckons.
No.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like,
they dug themselves a hole by signing Shane Flanagan as the coach because, and you said it, there were board members who were reluctant because they were worried about, well, what happens if he signs his son? And that's exactly how it's played out. And who knows that, you're talking about they got an easy run home, right? That they could win a few games between now and the end of the season.
They could win 3 more.
It could be that at the end of the season, when we sit down and talk about the Dragons season, it could be the case that, well, if they had moved on Kyle Flanagan earlier, that could have been the difference between, not making the 8 and actually making the 8. If they had moved on Kyle Flanagan and put Ilias back in sooner, they might have won more games at that time where they went on that big losing streak. And they may have, in fact, made the top 8.
And then what's going to happen is, rugby league fans don't generally have a long memory. So it'll be, if they win a couple more, all the people are just going to say, well, they came home strong and we're excited for next year.
It kills me because there's no difference between finishing 9th and finishing, 14th. There's at the end of the day, who cares? There's no difference. It's like people bang on about the wooden spoon a lot, right? It's a big deal. Teams don't want to come last. But at the end of the day, does it really matter if a team comes last, second last, third last? I mean, at the end of the day, they had a terrible season. They might just avoid the wooden spoon, but I mean, who cares about that? If you're finishing in the bottom 3 or 4, you had a terrible season. But it's the same with finishing anywhere outside the 8. It's like, you came 9th or 10th. Oh, wow, There's no difference between that and finishing 13th or 14th.
Your season finishes at the same time.
Yeah, it's...
Even
that's how it has to be judged.
Like the wooden spoon, you can... the Tigers won the last 3 because the Tigers won the last 3. They won the last 3.
Yeah.
And who got the wooden spoon before that?
That's the Bulldogs.
Was it the Bulldogs?
Yeah, it was.
Oh, you know that.
In 2021, yeah.
You know that because it's the Bulldogs.
Yeah.
And then who got it before that?
I think the Broncos did because the Bulldogs were close to getting it, but the Broncos got it. I can't remember 2019, but I remember 2020.
But you can remember who won the premiership in 2019, right?
Yeah, the Roosters, yeah.
It's really easy to remember who won the premierships for the past 5 years. Panthers, Roosters.
Right, and the Storm in 2020.
Yeah.
But yeah. Yeah,
that's an easy...
They haven't really shared it around too much, have they?
Anyway, well... They did win on the weekend, the Dragons, against the Sharks.
Yeah, they did. And look, and that's the thing. I mean, you're a Dragons supporter. I know there's that rivalry with the Sharks. So
I didn't care.
You didn't care?
No.
Yeah. Oh, so you were looking at it as this really doesn't mean anything?
Yeah, it's meaningless.
Okay.
The rivalry for me is over because the Dragons suck so much.
Right, okay.
Like, whoop-de-doo, they beat the Sharks. Mm. But they're not going to make the 8 and their season's over again.
But you know what? That's the way that you should be looking at it. You're looking at it in the right way. Because at least you're looking at it that way. And so if you're looking at it the right way, then at least you can, do your best to call for some changes. You know? The worst thing is you wouldn't want to be satisfied with that. That'd be the worst thing.
Oh, yeah, at least we won the local derby.
If you were satisfied with that, that'd be the worst thing because then you delude yourself into thinking that you're on the right track when you're not. And that's what you really don't want.
Like Rabbitohs fans back when Rabbitohs were really bad and they would win the Charity Shield every year and they would think that was a big deal. Yeah, like that was the most. They had their grand final in February every year. It didn't matter. I mean, in reality, you had to look at it like that as that doesn't actually matter. Your team sucks. Yeah. Dragons currently suck, and beating the Sharks, the Sharks aren't.
I know we've said before. We have said before, it's all about finishing in the top 4 because 5 to 8.
Yeah,
it's very difficult for them. But I mean, let's be fair about it. There are 17 teams in the comp, so there's only. You know what I mean? That's why the top 8 is a good measurement of the season that you've had because if you're going to say, you have to make the top 4. Well, then essentially that means 13 teams fail every year, and that is
top 8.
Pretty harsh.
Top 8 is improvement for teams that weren't in the top 8.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
And then top 4 is improvement for teams that weren't that were in the top 8 but not in the top 4.
Yeah. 5 to 8 it's a pass mark.
Yeah,
but it's not. 1 to 4 is you've had a great season. 5 to 8 is you've passed.
Well, for any team that didn't make the 8, then getting into the 8 the next year is more meaningful because it shows improvement and gives you something to look forward for the following year. Because what's the improvement on coming 5th to 8th, coming 1st to 4th?
And that's what the Bulldogs have done.
Yeah.
They finished 6th last year. And
exactly.
Now
You said that the year before, they didn't make the 8, right? Yeah, they didn't make the 8.
They didn't make the 8 for 7 years before
and then
that.
They got into the 8 and you look forward to the following year. But this is the Dragons is like, and a bunch of the teams is like, well, this is just more of the, I don't look forward to next year because I see no improvement. So getting into the 8 would have been, something.
Yeah, that's the thing. You need to see the light at the end of the tunnel.
Yeah, and we don't right now. Well, I don't right now.
Yeah, so while it's, and again, this year, it seems like this year will be no different. The top 4 are clearly above 5 to 8 this year. While 5 to 8, they're really going to struggle to make, to win the premiership. It's still a good, barometer on what sort of season teams have had.
Well,
it's a pass mark for teams.
Think like, oh God, I've just clicked the wrong button. Don't worry, I'm gonna. Yeah, there we go. Okay, so like I said, the 8th team is most likely to be the Roosters or the Dolphins, right? Mm. Now, if you're a Dolphins fan, you're sitting there going, "Yes, we've gone from 11th to 8th." If you're a Roosters fan, you're going, "Damn, we gone from 3 to 8." But if you're a Dragons fan, you're like, oh, we're 11th again.
Where are we going?
Yeah, where have we actually gone? We're gone nowhere.
Speaking of teams that are going nowhere, the Sharks.
Oh, God. Yeah, well, Sharks are losing games that they shouldn't lose. There's no reason why the Dragons beat the Sharks. And post that game, there has been a lot of looks at Craig Fitzgibbon from the media and whether he is actually the coach to take them.
Yeah, I mean, well, this is the issue. That there's some interesting stats. That Cronulla have had the least Origin players of any team over the last 2 seasons, but yet they have the 3rd worst winning record during the Origin period. So that's interesting to me. Again, the least number of players of any team over the last 2 seasons in Origin, but the 3rd worst winning record of any team during the Origin period. Now, questions have been asked of Craig Fitzgibbon, especially around his, recruitment and retention. Now, Nico Hynes and Braden Trindle have signed long-term contracts with the club. Hynes will be with the Sharks until the end of the 2029 season. Braden Trindle until the end of 2028.
How old's Nico Hynes?
Now, this is the thing, and not only is it the length of the deal, he's on huge money as well. I was looking at it just before. I'm going to bring up the salary. So he's on $1 million a year, every year, until the end of 2029. So that's 4 more years after this one. He's going to be on $1 million a year, Nico Hynes.
I got to say, if Dylan Brown's worth $1.3 million, then Nico Hynes is probably worth more than that, though.
That's the thing, but we can't let the Dylan Brown, as you say, the Dylan Brown is an outlier.
Yeah.
We can't. What is it you say? The outlier isn't the rule, or something?
Yeah, the outlier doesn't prove the rule.
Doesn't prove the rule. Yeah, that's right.
Dylan Brown's worth $1.3 million, then Nico Hynes is worth $1.4. But in reality, if Nico Hynes is worth $1 million and Dylan Brown is worth $800,000, that's the reality of it, and he's not worth $1 million.
But there's been some real serious criticism of Nico Hynes, and then there were some quotes from Andrew Johns earlier in this season on Nico Hynes where he said he's just so low on confidence. Trindle is doing pretty much all the kicking, and he's the dominant playmaker. When the game was on the line, sort of didn't see Nico for the last 10 to 15 minutes. I really have no idea how to rebuild it. This was a game earlier in the season. Andrew Johns was talking about it. Andrew Johns said, when the game is on the line, you want your halfback handling the ball 2 or 3 times a set. I didn't see that. compare a couple of years ago to where he is now, I don't know how you build back up to when he was the best player in the comp. So that's Andrew Johns talking about Nico Hynes earlier in the season. Now, the Sharks have gone ahead and signed him to this lengthy $1 million a year deal until the end of 2029. Is Craig Fitzgibbon, is he too much of a nice guy to be an NRL coach? Is he too much of a nice guy to make the hard calls on players? Because there's no way that they should be re-signing Nico Hynes on $1 million a year until the end of 2029 if they actually want to go somewhere and improve.
Well, the Sharks are all over the shop, man, all year. Like, they beat Melbourne, and then they got smashed by Melbourne. They just scraped through just winning against the Rabbitohs, and then pump the Cowboys the next week, and then get beat by the Dragons. Like, they're just all over the shop. I think the issue with the coaching of Sharks isn't really whether he should be signing Nico Hynes or anything. I think it's just consistency, which is the key in everything, right? Consistency. They're unable to... It's not injuries, and as you said, they don't get Origin players picked.
No.
Like, their team is pretty consistent week to week, or has the chance to be pretty consistent week to week from a roster point of view, but they can't even put together consistent performances. You know? And so...
Yeah, I think I've said it before on the podcast, but I think with that club, they took so long to win their first premiership, won their first premiership in 2016. And it's almost like as a club they're sort of going, we've climbed the mountain now.
Yeah, we're done.
And now we'll just do what we can to make the 8. And it's almost as if they're going, if we just make the 8 every year, the coach will keep his job and we'll all get contract extensions.
We've won the...
they're satisfied, they're content.
We've won the premiership in 2016. We don't really need to do anything else for the rest of our lives now.
That's the thing. When you go so... And I know that, obviously that's 9 years ago now. That's a long time ago. But in terms of the culture of the club, you wonder whether they're just going, we've won one now. We can live off that one for a while. Because there was so much pressure on them to get that first premiership win. And it feels like almost they're going, we're good for a while here.
Yeah.
Let's just try and make the 8 and keep our jobs here for a while. Because we'll live off that premiership for a while longer.
Yeah, like, that's the thing. Like, Craig Fitzgibbon's too nice of a guy to sit them down and say, you have to be consistent. And if you're not consistent, then you're getting dropped. I think it's pretty obvious. Like, that's their main issue, their consistency game to game, where they'll beat the Storm and then get smashed by the Storm. They'll only just scrape through against the Rabbitohs, who are far and away the worst team in the competition, even more so than the Titans, even though the Titans are coming last. The Rabbitohs are just woeful. And they just managed to beat them and then get beat by the Dragons, who they should beat. They were on a 4-game winning streak, so they're going into the game with form. I think they started their winning streak with by pumping the Roosters. They beat the Dolphins and then pumped the Roosters in that streak, just scraped through against the Sharks, dominate the Cowboys, and then get beat by the Dragons. They're going into the game with form. Dragons were on a 1-game winning streak.
I think if you were sitting down and being brutally honest about whether Nico Hynes is going to win Cronulla's next premiership, I think you'd sit down and go, he's not going to. No. And we need to use this $1 million elsewhere. But they've not been prepared to make that hard call. It reads to me like Fitzgibbon's too scared to make the hard call on Hynes. And it reads like he's too much of a nice guy to make the hard decision.
That's one of the things. I think a lot of clubs are in this real fear of letting their halves go or changing their halves because there are no halves, and halves are just all overinflating their prices. So it's like, we'll just give Nico $1 million because he's a good guy and he's been around for a while. And in reality, who else are we going to sign in the halves? We've already let Atkinson go. Who else are we going to sign? But heaps of clubs are in that situation, right? Well, there's Lewis Dodd. Everyone can sign Lewis Dodd right now. But it's like the same as Newcastle has signed Dylan Brown for $1 million because 1.3 million because who else are they going to sign? Where are the other halves coming from? You've got to hold on to your halves.
So, you had Andrew Johns saying earlier this season that he has no idea how to rebuild it in terms of Nico Hynes' game. So you've got him saying that, but then you've got the Sharks locking him in on a long-term contract, $1 million a season until 2029.
Didn't he win a Daly M as well, Nico Hynes?
I'm pretty sure he did, but I will look that up. This is the thing, it's been a slip in form, as Andrew Johns pointed out. It's different to a couple of years ago.
Yeah, he won in 2022 and he was top 3 in 2023.
Yeah, so the dip in form has happened in the last couple of years.
It's the Origin that killed him.
Well,
Origin 2024.
He hasn't really been the same since then, has he?
Yeah.
That's the thing. I think if you honestly sat down and went, can this guy win us a premiership or not? I think the answer is no. But they're just not prepared to have that brutally honest conversation. And that's why... and Fitzgibbon's not, clearly. So that's why he's re-signed Hynes on a long-term deal. Yeah, I mean, he's a nice guy, Fitzgibbon, but you got to be able to make the hard decisions as an NRL coach. And clearly he's not prepared to make the hard decisions.
I think he's a brown belt in jiu-jitsu as well, so...
Oh, is it?
Yeah, same as me. I wouldn't want to spar with Craig Fitzgibbon, so even though he's way older than me. Well, I don't know, is he? How old is he?
Oh, would he be late 40s, 50s, I'm guessing?
Yeah, around my age. 48. Oh, he's in my bracket and everything, and he probably weighs around the same as me as well, so it'd actually be me versus him in a competition if he was... Pass. He's he's a bit bigger than my weight class. Anyway, I think he's just too nice, and that's the thing. Like until they get a hard person in to make them consistent, they'll never be able to go anywhere. They're just too inconsistent, and
that's the thing. That the Sharks will be too nice to sack him because he'll keep making the 8, and they'll be satisfied with that. And he'll be too nice to sack any of the players or move any of the players on. And so they'll just sort of too nice themselves into never, doing anything again.
The Sharks,
for the foreseeable future, they'll just keep scraping into the 8 and being satisfied with that.
The Sharks are kind of like that plain, unseen person, that they're never in the news. They don't really go anywhere in the 8, really threaten for the premiership. They're always at the middle of the ladder. And they used to be the crazy ones. Remember the CEO punched the woman in the eye or whatever when he was shadowboxing her? Had all that lunacy, the peptides, like everything. And now they're just this middle of the road, do nothing kind of team.
And this is the thing. I know they made the prelim final last season.
They won one. Yeah, they won two.
They made the prelim final last year. But Penrith hammered them 26-6. They were never going to win that game.
Yeah.
They were never a chance of beating Penrith. So again, it's this deluding yourself that you're doing better than you really are. See, they've probably come away with that and gone, prelim final, that's good enough for us.
Yeah.
When their thoughts should have been, well, how do we get closer to a team like Penrith? After Penrith thrashed them in the prelim last year.
I really think that Nico Hynes is just broken from State of Origin and he needs a mental health coach or something to fix him. Because obviously he has the ability, if he's Daly M winner and top 3 Daly M in the following year, and then after State of Origin is when he went.
Yeah, it's just it slipped away. But you got to be prepared to make the hard calls. You can't just go, you've had a dip in form the last couple of years. But that's okay. We'll give you a nice big contract extension until the end of 2029 on $1 million a year. Yeah, that's probably not the way to react if somebody's had an off couple of years of form, I wouldn't have
definitely not. Over to your Bulldogs. The continued tinkering in the middle of the year continues.
Yes.
With Reid Mahoney being dropped to the bench and Bailey Hayward starting. So that happened last week and it's been named again this week.
It happened, it was a late change last week.
Yeah.
It only came out, an hour before the game when they had to finalise the teams. So obviously he wanted to keep it under wraps for as long as he
Yeah.
possibly could, which was up until an hour before kickoff. But yeah, obviously, like the Galvin replacing Toby Sexton, obviously this one's been in the works, in the pipeline for a while, and he's finally pulled the trigger on it.
Well, it kind of proved a masterstroke, given that they broke their hoodoo of not being able to play in the wet and also being able to beat top 8 teams.
Yeah, well, you got to give credit where it's due, don't you? They were really good against the Warriors in the wet. They played really well. They were really good against Manly as well, the game against Manly. But, they have had a couple of howlers in them, though. That Tigers game was a howler, that loss to the Tigers, and that Broncos loss where they were up 18-0 with 20 minutes to go and got beaten. So, there have been a couple of howlers in them. Now, I was sort of having a look at the... Yeah, I can talk about the odds, can't I? Yeah. So, I had a look at TAB Sportsbet's odds. Now, Melbourne have stayed as competition favourites with the bookies all season. They've been clearly the, premiership favourites. But earlier in the season, the Bulldogs were second favourites. They were expected to make the grand final, if you remember. And I know you tipped that at the start of the season. And I know there's not much between the top 4 teams. There's not. The line of betting is very close between the top 4. It's a 4-horse race, basically, as I was saying. But now they've slipped to 4th in the pecking order, the Bulldogs. The Raiders are now gone ahead of them in the pecking order, according to the bookies. And obviously the Panthers, who've just come from nowhere to be in the top 4, they've also overtaken them in the line of betting for winning the premiership. So what I'm sort of saying here is, I think the Bulldogs were better at the start of the year than what they are now. I think they were going better. They won 11 of their first 13 games. They were on top of the ladder for 13 rounds, from round 4 through until round 16. That was before they decided to turf out Toby Sexton. Obviously they've only just turfed Reid Mahoney out. And now they're third on the ladder. So... They won their first 6 games of the season. They won 11 of their first 13, as I said, but they've only won 4 of their last 7. You might go, 4 of your last 7's okay, but if you won 11 of your first 13, then 4 out of 7 isn't so great, maybe.
Well, this was one of the things we talked about when, because the Galvin came in at that perfect time to, take over basically a few weeks ago, where they were going to get this easy run, where they'll play the Dragons and the Sea Eagles, and then we didn't expect the West Tigers to pump them, but that they did, and then get the Warriors was like their real test for this. Like, it's bizarre, and it's so funny to watch Bulldogs fans debate this, because there are some people who just blindly will say they know what they're doing, they're the best and everything, like look at where we are on the ladder and stuff, and some people who will fully say like, Serrato's a lunatic and Gus is just crazy, and then there's some people in the middle who are like, dude, I have no idea what to say. Like, really, it's so, because you look at it, we won 11 of our first 13 and we lost 4 of our next 7. We only won 4 of the next 7. It's nonsensical. It's the weirdest thing to tinker with a winning combination. No matter how good you beat the Warriors.
This is the thing, and I think his intention is, he's obviously they've sat down at some point and they've said, look, if we want to, I think their intentions are good. I think they're sitting there going, look, we're not just going to be, if we think we can make improvements, we will. But the problem is, we don't know if they've made the right call here. Again, they obviously have sat down and gone, well, we need Galvin over Sexton if we're going to win the comp. We need Hayward over Mahoney if we're going to win the comp. And so you can see what their intentions are, and you can applaud that, but we don't know if they're right or not.
No.
And we're not going to know until the end of the season, when we sit down and see how they went. And then we discuss, well, would they have gone better or worse if they had left Sexton and Mahoney?
Well, the response is going to be, like if you believe that they would have gone better with Mahoney and Sexton, the people are going to go, I think we would have gone worse. You know, that's the thing. Like, it's just weird to tinker with a winning combination. They won 11 of their first 13. They were on top of the ladder. They were the best defensive team in the competition.
I mean, they still are, yeah.
Yeah,
but
they had very, very good attack. They were up there on the attack as well, right? They were winning. They were Charlie Sheen.
They were on top of the ladder.
Charlie Sheen hashtag winning,
They
right?
were on top of the ladder for 13
and they
rounds.
thought, we can do better than this. Let's make some changes.
Yeah.
What is better than this?
This is you think about it like this, right? They beat the Raiders in round 10, right? Now the Raiders are above them in the pecking order with bookies. So what does that tell you? In round 10, they were above the Raiders.
Yeah.
If you looked at the lineup, the Bulldogs were second favourites to win the comp in round 10. And they beat the Raiders then. But now, we're at a different stage of the season. We're right at the back end of the season. The bookies think the Raiders have more chance of winning the comp. They didn't at that time. They didn't
that's
in round 10.
Because they were number one, and they thought they could do better. But there's no better than number one. You know, there was no better to do. So it was always weird to start tinkering. And they continue to tinker. Instead of continuing to tinker, why don't you go back to how you were when you were number one? Like, why not go, instead of going like, oh, you know what, we're not looking as good. We've only won 4 of our last 7. And that's not as good as we were going at the beginning of the year. You know what we need to do? We need to make more changes. Not, let's undo our changes and put ourselves back to how we were really good. It's let's make more changes to try and fix what we broke.
Yeah. Yeah, that's right. And look, again, I know we got to give credit where they were really good against the Warriors. Again, against Manly, really good. Galvin was really good. But it's they've still got those howlers in them. That Tigers game and that Broncos game where they led 18-0 with 20 to go and lost somehow. What I would point out, though, an interesting stat, which I was going to mention to you. So this is over the last 3 weeks. So the Bulldogs, when Reid Mahoney has been at dummy half, have on average scored 5 points over the last 3 weeks. With Bailey Hayward at dummy half, they've scored on average 22 points. That's over the last 3 games. So
They score more.
They score more with Hayward on the field. But then again, we should point out that, you know, this change has only just happened, and if we're thinking about it going, well, Mahoney would often start the game, often early in the game there's less points scored as well, because obviously fatigue comes into it towards the back end of the game, and there's more points scored towards the back end of the game when Hayward would move into that position and Mahoney would have a break. So we should point that out as well, that, you know, stats can be a little bit misleading, but that is an interesting stat nonetheless.
Yeah. They did have
we'll
some games at the beginning
goes.
of the year where they scored heaps of points as well. It's just it's one of those ones that it's like, if they win, then it was a masterstroke. If they lose, then there'll be forever debate about whether in 2025 they could have won.
Yeah, but Mahoney only had 16 minutes of game time against the Warriors, so yeah, it was interesting just seeing him just sitting on the bench and waiting 64 minutes to...
He's gone to North Queensland.
He's going to North Queensland, but I did feel bad for him. I really did. I sort of thought, this guy's helped them, you know, he's helped them climb the ladder. I felt bad for him just sort of sitting there on the bench. This is an experienced campaigner. He helped Parramatta to that grand final appearance in 2022. So that's the other thing to keep in mind. This is a player who's taken a team to a grand final, and yet just before the finals, you've opted to brush him in favour of, Bailey Hayward, who, you know, is very untested in big games at the end of the season in finals games.
It's going to be interesting. Like I said, if they win, it's going to be a masterstroke. If they lose, it's going to be a debate for eternity. Did the Bulldogs screw themselves in 2025?
Yeah, I like I like Serraldo's mentality, but the question is he right or not?
Yeah.
And we don't know if he's right or not. And if he's wrong, well, you're going to have to judge him on that.
At the end of the year, you're going to get the argument. Well, there's going to be 50% of people who are going to say, yeah, well, he shouldn't have made those changes, and the other 50% will say we would have ended up in the same place if he hadn't have made those changes anyway. You know, there's not going to be any evidence to suggest that they would have gone better if he hadn't have made the changes. That's the problem with it.
Yeah.
Like, no one can win that argument, but if they win, you know, the argument is won. It's just if they don't win, then it's a forever argument. It's just a thing. Well, you know, it's the year that could have been, you know, like for the rest of their lives.
I think if we're talking about this top four here, I think Bulldogs and Raiders would much rather play against each other, wouldn't they, rather than playing against either one of the other two, right?
Yeah, at this point in time.
So, but I'll tell you what, you would be surprised if they're not the last four teams in the comp. The prelim finals, you would think that those four will be the last four.
Those four teams are way better than anyone else.
And so once you're there at that stage, once you're in the prelim, well, anything can happen.
Yeah, exactly.
You're a chance of taking it out.
Yeah. Over to Manly.
Yeah.
Everybody knows that Anthony Seibold is very, very, very heavily on the outer.
Yes.
He's probably, expected to be sacked if the Seagulls don't make the 8.
Yeah.
It's come out now that Anthony Watmough is the one that's trying to push him out the door. What does Anthony Watmough have to do at the club now? Is he employed there, or does he want to be a coach?
Just having a look at this report, was just a former player reportedly leading the charge to have Seibold sacked. I'm not aware of Anthony Watmough being in any official role with the club any longer. He's just a disgruntled former player who wants change. That having been said, though, I do agree with Anthony Watmough. I think, if Manly don't make the 8, Seibold should go, because in his first season in 2023, they finished 12th. Last year, they made the 8, finished 7th, made the semi-finals. But this year now they're 10th. I think with that roster, if you go 2 years out of 3 not making the 8, then that's not a good enough return with a roster like that. And then Anthony Seibold should go.
Yeah.
And so I agree with Anthony Watmough. And look, percentage chance. I've still got the percentage chance article up here. Manly's chances of finishing the top 8 now are slimming by the week. They're now only a 9.9% chance of finishing in the top 8, Manly. So, looking at that, you'd think they're not going to make the 8.
I don't think they're going to make the 8.
If they don't make the 8, Seibold should be gone, in my opinion.
It's Dolphins and Roosters for the 8th spot. And their points differential isn't that big either. It's like 119 positive for the Dolphins and 72 for the Roosters. So it's only like a 40-point difference with 5 weeks to go. And the Roosters have a habit of putting scores on. So
and while you're talking about points differential, that's another negative for Manly. Theirs is minus 10.
Yeah.
So that's the problem. That's why there's so little chance of making the 8 now, because they're going to have to win one more game than the Roosters and Dolphins, because their for and against is so much worse than those two teams.
Yeah. So it's not going to happen.
No.
Still on the Manly, basically.
Yeah.
There's more doubts on whether the Roosters actually need to sign Daly Cherry-Evans.
Yeah.
Well, Sam Walker had a cracker on the weekend.
Yeah.
Like, he was...
64-12. They pumped the Dolphins. Pumped them. And that's obviously a big win in the context of the chase for the top 8 too.
Exactly. And Sam Walker was really on fire. He kicked 10 from 11.
Look, that's the thing.
The score was a little bit deceptive because there was a point where they were both down to 11 men for 10 minutes. Both teams were down to 11 men for 10 minutes. And that opened up the game a lot.
I guess you could say to that, though, it was the same for both of them, right?
Yeah, I know. But the Roosters have a habit of scoring a lot.
Yeah.
And it did give them a chance to score a lot. It did open up the whole game for a lot. So, on the other side, the Dolphins have been pumped a couple of times this year. But Sam Walker was in everything. He was phenomenal.
Mm-hmm.
And then What's the 5'8"?
Hugo Savala.
Yeah, Savala. Never. So they've told Sandon Smith he can go.
It looks like he's on the way out.
So anyone who wants a halfback, Dragons.
So this is the thing. Savala's only 23. Sam Walker's only 23. And Daly Cherry-Evans, they're going to sign him for next season. He'll be 37 next season when you've got Savala and Walker going so well here. By the week, this is more and more bewildering, this decision for the Roosters. Well, this expected decision from the Roosters, highly likely decision that they're going to sign Daly Cherry-Evans. The Roosters, they had that win over Manly as well, which Savala and Walker guided them to, along with that win over the Dolphins that we just talked about. But if you look at Manly, by contrast, they've lost their last 3 games in a row, including that loss to the Raiders on Friday. This is the thing. Cherry-Evans is struggling at the moment. Next year he's going to be another year older. They got 2 gun-young 23-year-old halves. And they're going to upset the apple cart there to bring in a 37-year-old who's on his last legs.
Yeah, for 1 year as well. That's, he was in really good form at the beginning of the year, and then he was obviously the scapegoat for Queensland's loss in Game 1 in Origin, right? And then they had the whole thing about how he's not going to be there, and he was on the TV saying it. And so since then, Manly have just gone to the crapper, the whole team. And so I think his current form is not reflective of where his form could be. But that said, Sam Walker and Savala's form is way better than Daly Cherry-Evans, and I wouldn't replace either of those with Daly Cherry-Evans.
That's the thing. Their form's better than him now. Imagine next year, another year on a 36-year-old, another year onto a 36-year-old.
Is Daly Cherry-Evans going to become the Chad Townsend, though? You know, that could be the other thing. Because Chad Townsend was signed to a pretty good contract for a guy who was just meant to play New South Wales Cup and ended up playing a bunch of games because of injuries, right? Daly Cherry-Evans could be that. Because Sam Walker is a little bit injury-prone for a 23-year-old. Then again, I also, me personally, wouldn't replace Sandon Smith with Daly Cherry-Evans. You know, I wouldn't let Sandon Smith go for Daly Cherry-Evans because Sandon Smith is 21, 22.
I think he's 22, yeah.
Daly Cherry-Evans is 137. You know, so it's like... But
this is the thing. You're right. If they didn't pursue Cherry-Evans, they could have kept Sandon Smith. Yeah. And then you've got... And then their halves are looking... are looking sensational. They'd have 3 gun halves in their early 20s if they had not pursued DC and kept Sandon Smith.
Sandon Smith hasn't signed with anyone yet, though, right?
No, but it's most likely that
there's a bunch of clubs that'll take him
on the move. It seems like they're resigned to losing him, and they're going to bring DCE in and have. And, Savala will be the third wheel off DCE and Sam Walker.
Well, that's nuts, because I think Sam Walker is now a better halfback than Daly Cherry-Evans. And so they're not going to move Daly Cherry-Evans to 6th.
It's nuts because... It's nuts to me because I don't think they're going to win the comp with DCE.
No, most definitely
It would only not be nuts if bringing DCE in meant they were a really good shot at winning the comp next year. But they're not. So that's why it makes no sense at all. That's why they should have kept... Well, again, they're going to let Sandon Smith go. So they should have kept Sandon Smith and not worried about DCE, in my opinion, because they're not a team where DCE is the difference between them winning a comp and not.
Yeah.
Again, the top 4 teams right now are well above the rest of the teams. You got to do more than adding DCE to catch up with the top 4 teams at the moment.
It's just it's super weird for 1 year.
Yeah.
It's going to happen though, because like we talked about before, Uncle Nick Politis said it was going to happen, and he doesn't go back on his word. So he's definitely going to sign Daly Cherry-Evans. And you just don't know what they're going to do with them. There's a bunch of clubs in the comp right now that have just the strangest recruitment known to man, like they just... Nobody can puzzle out what the hell they're trying to build over there at Roosters. Like, what are they trying to build over there? What are they putting together? Dragons is another one. Rabbitohs is another one. Like, what are they doing over at the Rabbitohs? Like, who are they building their team around? What are they trying to recruit?
Well, you think the Rabbitohs they're just hoping that next year they have an injury-free year. They'll use the injuries, give them an out this year. They'll use that out. They'll say,
yeah, I don't think
we've got a whole bunch of injuries. Let's give us a year of grace, and we'll see how we go next year. Hopefully, we don't get injuries next year.
They're basically 4 points ahead of the Titans. I don't think the Titans will catch them to avoid the wooden spoon. They're currently 2 points ahead of the Titans, but they haven't had their last bye. So the Rabbitohs, I don't think, will get the wooden spoon, and they'll be able to say, at least we avoided the wooden spoon. Look at all those injuries we had.
But as I was saying before, whether you come 15th, 16th, 17th...
Yeah,
does it really matter? All right, you avoid the spoon, but come on.
That's what they're going to use.
You had a terrible
That's
season.
how good of a coach he is, because he avoided the wooden spoon when with all those injuries.
I think too much is made of that fight to avoid the wooden spoon. I think it's a load of nonsense.
With $8 million on the sideline, he was able to avoid the wooden spoon.
It's a load of nonsense. If you come second last, it's pretty much the same as coming last.
Exactly. And finally, in rugby league, I can't believe the Broncos are still favourites this week, to be honest. I think you and Piercy tipped the Broncos. I actually ended up tipping the Dolphins.
Right.
Because the Broncos had 3 hamstring injuries.
Yeah, unbelievable. So Adam Reynolds and Ezra Mann went down on the same play with hamstring injuries, if you can believe that. So they lost their 2 halves on the same play to hamstring injuries. Terrible luck. And then obviously much later in the game, Selwyn Cobbo went down with a hamstring injury as well. Now, Phil Rothfield was saying earlier in the week, it's understandable that 35-year-old Adam Reynolds would go down with a hamstring injury. But he was he was questioning, why is Ezra Mann at 22 years of age and Selwyn Cobbo at 23 going down with these hamstring injuries, as if to say, well, is there something in Michael Maguire's coaching methods? Does he push them too hard over the preseason? Does he put them through the ringer too much? Again, a 35-year-old going down with a hamstring is one thing, but a 22-year-old and a 23-year-old going down, well, that's another thing altogether, right?
Yeah, I don't think... obviously, Michael Maguire oversees the overall coaching, but Michael Maguire doesn't have a lick of impact into the weights, strength and conditioning training, I'm sure of it. And so that's what they've really got to look at. Who is their strength and conditioning coach, and what are they doing in the hamstring area to accommodate for that? As me and Piercy have tipped the Dolphins, you've tipped the Broncos. Because of the players that... Piercy's been tipping the Dolphins all year, right? Like, just as even when it's the outlier. I think he tipped them against the Storm when they played the Storm. Like, what are you, mad? But I think it's because he really likes Katoa. Actually, he thinks Katoa is one of the best up and coming guys. But the Broncos having 3 players go down with hamstring injuries in one game, you actually do need to go and look at your strength and conditioning and training exercises. You just do. I can liken it to jiu-jitsu, right? If you have a whole bunch of people in your gym who are tearing their knees, it means you are practicing and doing moves too much and not like having enough control over what you're doing to everyone's knees. So if everyone is going down from hamstring injuries, there was a few years ago where a bunch of people tore ACLs on like the gunshot wound where no one touched them and they'd step and tear an ACL. It's quite a while. I remember Preston Campbell was one of them. And so everyone was like, oh, what are all the coaches doing, blah, blah, blah. And it ended up being actually the studs versus the new turf was the actual issue. So there was an underlying issue. So that was across different clubs. Different clubs had the same issue, right? So this one is 3 players in one go in the same round.
Yeah.
So they've been over the course...
2 of them on the same play.
Over the course of the year, they've all been doing their strength and conditioning. And so, what are we, 6 months into the season now, 5 months into the season, over the last 5 months, they've been doing something that has weakened their hamstring, and after 5 months, it's finally come to a head. So, yeah, they need to look at what they're doing.
You want the percentage chances for the Broncos?
Yeah.
Chance of finishing in the top 8, 83.1%.
Oh, yeah, because they're already up there.
Chance of finishing in the top 4, 6.8%.
No
so
chance.
top 4 is gone. But the reason there's still a really good chance of making the 8, well, yeah, they are in 6th spot, and it's also because they do have a relatively favourable run. That Dolphins game they've got, I mean, that could go either way. But then they've got the Knights and the Cowboys, so you'd think they win those 2 games. They have the Storm in the last round, but I think if they beat the Knights and the Cowboys, that will probably be enough for them to get there.
That'll put them on 13 wins.
Yeah, and
32 points. Yeah.
Yeah, so I think if they can win those 2 games, which are very winnable for them.
Well, you got to think like that. If they beat the Dolphins, right, it puts the Dolphins way out of contention as well of taking the Broncos spot. So that puts the Dolphins down further as well.
So I think they've only got to win 2 of their last 4, whichever 2, to make the 8, and I think they will do that.
Yeah.
But yeah, the issue for them is going to be, I think Adam Reynolds is, the club put out a statement after that game last week. Adam Reynolds is out for 4 weeks. But the hamstring injuries
back
to Cobb,
finals.
The hamstring injuries to Cobbo and Mam are a bit more serious, and they're going to be out for 6 or more weeks. So that's getting borderline, could be out for the rest of the season.
Yeah.
But whereas Reynolds, sounds like Reynolds all going well to be back for the finals.
6 weeks.
But Cobbo and Mam, they may not come back this year.
Yeah, they're going to be in the...
Depends how far they go in the finals.
So they'd have to win 2 games for those 2 guys to come back.
And that's only if it's 6 weeks out. It could be more than that, right?
Yeah.
It seems like it's 6 weeks minimum for those 2. But Reynolds back in 4 weeks, by the looks.
So, if anything, they'll be back for the semi and the grand. If anything, at a minimum.
But this is the thing, we don't really think that they're going to be in the prelim finals.
Yeah.
We think the top 4 teams will be.
Yeah, exactly.
Again, the top 4 are, I think, a fair way ahead of the chasing pack in the pecking order here.
You can't see them making it through. Oh, well, they should look at their strength and conditioning. That's it for rugby league.
Yes.
On to cricket. South Africa pumped Australia in the second T20, so now it's locked 1-1 with the last one to come tomorrow.
Saturday night.
Oh, God, it's Thursday. Saturday
night in Cairns. The first 2 games were played in Darwin.
Yep.
Australia won game 1 by 17 runs. South Africa hit back, winning game 2 by 53 runs. But game 3, which is the decider, we played Saturday night in Cairns. So I guess it's probably a smart idea using Darwin and Cairns up north in the winter to play up there in the winter, because obviously it'll be way too hot.
Never going to be able to play.
Yeah, it'll be way too hot to play there in summer. So if you are going to play there, it makes sense to play there in winter. That having been said, I don't know why they're bothering with this series. Well, it seems like a complete waste of time to me.
Minimum requirements of international games.
Yeah.
The
ICC.
CC.
Yeah.
Yep. ICC.
Which, by extension, is the BCCI, because they control the ICC.
Yeah. Has a minimum requirement for international games per year, and that's why they have to do these. So these useless series are solely getting more and more info on this from big cricket fans who actually hate all this stuff. You know, they hate all the useless T20s.
Well, it's just it plays into this this idea that there's just too much cricket, and
because hardcore cricket fans who are fully like cricket as their preferred sport, what they actually like is they like domestic T20s competitions, BBL, IPL, that kind of thing,
and Test cricket.
Yeah, and so having all these international T20s and international ODIs and just all the way through, they don't like them because. Number one complaint I hear is, they wish in Australia is they wish all these players would play in the BBL. Back when the good old days when Shane Warne was playing in the BBL.
Yeah, when it first started.
Yeah, Shane Warne played in the BBL.
He played for the Melbourne Stars.
Yeah.
He did.
And they'd mic him up and he'd talk his way through it.
And he'd say, I'm going to bowl this way to this batsman and get him out. And then he'd go and do it.
Yeah, so that's what people wanted to return to, those glory days. But they just can't, because during the BBL there's like 84 international games. Well, it's the Ashes. Is it the Ashes this year?
Yeah. Ashes will be played over the summer in Australia.
In Australia, yep. So they won't be. They'll have a lot of players missing from the T20, the BBL, because BBL's played at the same time. So they have a lot of players missing. I mean, Test team and T20 team is different, but they're going to have these players missing that they want, and then there's going to be the distraction, especially because the Test cricket is 5 days. It's hard to watch a Test match and then watch your T20 matches at night as well.
If you watch a day of the Boxing Day Test, it's hard to back up and watch the BBL game afterwards. And it is hard.
Just think like that. That's a Boxing Day Test starts on Boxing Day.
Yeah.
There's no cricket on Christmas Day. Cool. So I watch the day of Boxing Day, first test, first day. Then I'm going to watch T20 at night, and then the next day I'm going to watch day 2, and then watch T20 at night.
It's not going to happen.
Yeah, it's just not going to happen. So that's the big frustration from the big cricket fans. Is cricket is their number one sport. They don't agree with the ICC, but the ICC and BCCI in extension are apparently money-hungry, money-grubbing organisations.
Yeah, I think a problem with the 2020 game is the game needs to be close to be interesting, and you need a really close finish for it to be watchable. So you need a team sort of needing, like, maybe
17 in the last over.
Yeah, something like that. 15 in the last over, 17 in the last over, or maybe like 25 off the last 2 overs, something like that. When it's not that, if it's one-sided, which the second game, South Africa won it easily by 53 runs. 53 runs is a lot in a 2020 game.
It really is.
In terms of a winning margin. That's the issue for me. When it's clear-cut who's going to win, I find it very difficult to watch a 2020 game.
Yeah.
It needs to be a close finish for me to watch it, to be honest. Otherwise, I tune out.
Yeah,
give me Test cricket any day of the week over this.
By basically the 30th over. The 30th over, I don't need to watch anymore. You have one team bat and they set a target, and then like 10 overs into when the other team comes out to the bat, I don't need to watch this, and so it's got to be entertaining. That's the whole idea of T20. But the fact that they put all these ODIs and Test matches and series and stuff during the thing, like you notice with the IPL, there is nothing on. During the IPL, there's the IPL.
It's because everyone wants to play in it.
Yeah, exactly.
There's so much money
and the BCCI demands it.
Yeah.
They demand it.
So nothing else can be on when the IPL.
For 8 weeks, nothing else is allowed to be on.
Yeah.
But what it should be is, I don't mind the T20 domestic competitions. What it should be is all of them are equal,
But how long before they turn the IPL into... So the IPL's about 8 weeks long, I think.
It's about 8 weeks.
How long before they turn that into a 6-month season? Like a baseball... Like the American baseball season goes for 6 months. It goes from April to October. How long before they think about doing that for the IPL?
Well, they know from other countries that they can't... They've got the perfect formula. It's around 8 to 10 weeks that they can play the T20 competitions for. So they've used other smaller countries to extend it. And then doesn't matter what country it is and who the fans are, they do get over it. So 8 to 10 weeks is the perfect formula for a T20 competition. What the IPL does is it's really mixed up into that Smart 11 system, which is very much like it's game-based fantasy sports specifically for the IPL. It was invented for the IPL, and they're a major sponsor of the IPL. And so the IPL changes rules and things like that to accommodate for Smart 11. That's the real problem, right? Like now they use these reserve systems where the team's allowed to name 4 extra reserves or something. Like they have their 11 and then they have 4 extra reserves. I don't really know how it works. I don't watch the IPL. I just had it explained to me and I said, I don't need to know. But they have this thing that was invented by Smart 11, a fantasy sports thing that is a major sponsor of the IPL. They made the IPL change how they actually play the game to accommodate for generating more money for Smart 11. So that's the real danger, because it would be less the cricket organisations like BCCI and ICC know not to have these domestic T20 comps go for too long. But if Smart 11 starts saying to them, we want to generate more money, you need to extend the season, that could be the downfall of the IPL. But
I think about the baseball, the length of a baseball game.
They play 165 games a year or whatever it is.
That's what I think about. I think about baseball game goes for about 3 hours. I think a 2020 game goes for about the same amount of time. So how long before the IPL turns into a big 6-month league and not just this 8-week, hit and run competition in sort of April and May? I think it's run.
Yeah,
maybe a bit into June.
I think it's May to June. Yeah, but you get 30 teams in the IPL, and they'll be playing 162 games a season.
Yeah.
They can do the best of sevens and all that. Oh God, it'd do my head in. But
it would. But hey, if there's a market for
that'd be the end of all that. Those you needless internationals, though.
Yeah, it would. Yeah, it would. It would really kill off the needless internationals because everyone will be playing in it.
Yeah.
Pat Cummins, Josh Hazelwood, Mitchell Starc. It'll be see you later to them for 6 months. They'll all be playing in it. Because if Mitchell Starc's getting $4 million for 8 weeks, what's he going to get for 6 months?
Yeah. There'll be so much money in it too. And then over to the Cincinnati Masters. Jannik Sinner's obviously on cycle. He's in good form. He's gone through to the quarterfinals.
At the Cincinnati Masters.
Cincinnati Masters, yeah. Sorry. When does that finish?
Cincinnati Masters are with Thursday. It'll finish this weekend, so it'll be Sunday there, Monday here. Yeah.
And who else is currently on the other track? Is Alcaraz in?
Let's have a look here. But yeah, Jannik Sinner beat Adrian Manarino in straight sets, and he's through to the quarterfinals. It'll be his 16th Masters 1000 quarterfinal, and the second in a row in Cincinnati for Sinner. Let's have a look.
Yeah, Carlos Alcaraz is currently through to the quarterfinals. There's something weird.
Let's have a look at this.
So
what do we got here? We got
quarterfinal. Yeah, Sinner will play.
So Sinner's going to play Auger Aliassime. Ben Shelton will play Leary Yehechka. Holger Rune will play Atmain. I've never heard of him. He's
unseeded, got no ranking.
Yeah, so doesn't even have a picture. Well done to him on getting through.
Doesn't even have a picture on Google.
But then, we got... so Alcaraz will play Andrei Rublev.
It's Tuesday it finishes.
Because, Shelton and Lehechka, that's a round of 16 match, so that's not a quarterfinal. So that's why you've also got Alexander Zverev's gone through to the other quarterfinal. So by the looks of that, the winner of Shelton and Lehechka will play Alexander Zverev in the quarters. And also, there's your quarterfinal lineup then.
Yeah, and then the semis are on Sunday and the final is on Tuesday.
Oh, Tuesday. I wonder why. That's a bit odd for the final to be on Monday there. Anyway, it's a bit
Tuesday
weird.
For us, Monday for them.
Yeah, but that's weird because usually it'd be Sunday for them, Monday for us.
Yeah, that's bizarre.
But anyway, and then not long after that.
You're so old-fashioned.
We've got the US Open.
It's been renamed to the Cincinnati Open, by the way.
Oh, has it?
Yeah. You're so old-fashioned, Dan.
It was always known as the Cincinnati Masters.
It's been renamed to the Cincinnati Open.
Things have changed, though.
It was renamed in 1901 to the Cincinnati Masters and then renamed again when? My God.
It's fairly recent, I would say.
Yeah, it was this year.
Yeah, well, there you go. The US Open starts on the 24th of August, So this is the last big lead-in event to the US Open, the Cincinnati Open.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm up to date now.
Yep. Yep, it was last year. Anyway, that's it for the week. Let's see where the Bulldogs go. I think that's the game of the round, Bulldogs versus Roosters. The Melbourne versus Penrith one, which is tonight, is obviously the two best bookies' favourites for winning the premiership. Mm-hmm. But I think the Bulldogs-Roosters game is the match of the round.
The Roosters, they're running hot, aren't they? That win over Manly and that huge win over the Dolphins.
Yeah.
And the Bulldogs coming good again last week. That win over the Warriors in the wet.
Well, I reckon it'll be good because the Roosters are
in the wet.
Roosters are on fire in their attack, and I can't wait to see how the Bulldogs' defence shuts it down. That's the most intriguing game of the round for me. You know, like how the Bulldogs have managed to shut down the Roosters' attack, or how the Roosters managed to overcome the Bulldogs' defence.
And it's probably a test that the Bulldogs need at this stage. As we're getting closer and closer to the finals now, only 4 rounds to go before finals time, so it's all very exciting.
Woke up this morning after 2 hard training sessions. Oh my god, I have so much washing, and boy does it sting! But luckily I have Gourami Cleaning Co's Gear Guard Clear the Funk, proud sponsor of SmartB. I've tried all of the ones that are around, and they're the ones that I suggest. They leave my clothes after training smelling like nothing. They don't do this thing where they smell like chemicals or flowers, and they don't advertise themselves as being a washing powder replacement. Instead, you add 1 cupful to your laundry, and off you go. Head to GouramiCleaning.co and buy yours now. GearGuard is a proud sponsor of the SmartB Sports Update.
And so that's it. Don't forget to go to OptimumCBD.store for all your CBD needs and GouramiCleaning.co for your gear guard. I think that's all. Smart Play new competition is the highest single score for an NRL game and the highest single score for an AFL game will win a $100 gift card. Winners will be announced each Monday. Make sure you claim it. And the tipping competition is heating up. I am still ahead in the overall rankings on the site for NRL, but Greg Veskazi is now winning the AFL one, so he's on track to win the 10 grand.
Well done, Craig.
Yeah. I got to try and beat him.
Very impressive.
I want it.
10 grand, that's all right.
Yeah.
Decent prize.
And everybody should remember to claim their $100 winning each week. Just check the rankings. You can claim your $100 winning fee. A few people haven't claimed. They've been reached out to. You do have to confirm your profile so we know you're not money laundering, but it's not that difficult. All right then. See you next week, Dan.
Thanks, John. Catch you next week.